Hello, I am Stephanie Fields, and this is my testimony. So, on July 27, 2023, last year, I was driving with me and my three boys, and we were going to Sam's Club. And we had just passed the train tracks. And I turned around and said, "Oh, look, boys, we just passed the train tracks. We just missed the train." And then I kept driving. Then I turned back around and just to check on the boys, make sure everybody's okay. Then I turned around and I saw Elijah, the baby, in the fetal position, just shaking really bad. I'm calling his name. Say, "Elijah, Elijah, what you doing? What you doing?" Just no response, just shaking. And then a big bubble came out of his mouth. So some told me just pull over to the side of the road. So I pulled over. He's still shaking and unresponsive, and I get out and something tells you this is emergency, call 911. So I'm got out the car. I'm calling his name and picking his arm out. Arm just fall, leg just fall, like out of it, eyes closed, like out. So I call 911. I'm talking to the operator. I'm trying to tell them, what's going on. And I picked him up on my chest, and the operator's trying to tell me, like, ask me other questions, like, where are you? I couldn't remember. I'm looking dead at the street sign. I couldn't say it. I know how to read, but it just couldn't come out. So I asked him to pick up my location, and they was able to pick up my location. And I'm telling them, like, he's not responding. He was shaking, and a big bubble came out of his mouth. So by this time, I finally put him on my chest, and he took a big breath, like just real big breath. And I just said, "Thank you, Jesus," because he wasn't responding, and he's breathing. His breath is really going really fast, and the operator telling me, you're gonna have to step out to so the ambulance can see you. So I'm like, okay. I just so happened to look over, and it's like they were coming out of the parking, like abandoned parking lot, like they was just sitting there. So I was like, okay, they here. So Elijah, he's still, fast-paced breathing, and then I gave him to the paramedic, and he fell right back out, like just limp, just the head went back, and arms, leg, everything went back. So I got the boys crying in the back seat. What's going on with Elijah? Where is he? And then I said, I can't go in the ambulance. So I followed the paramedic. He put him in the ambulance, and he closed the door. I just bowed down and just said, "Jesus." So because I just needed some strength, because I couldn't be in two places. So I'm talking, they calling. They say, "We'll call your husband to have him to come meet you." And I said, okay. And then I called Tony. I said, "Tony, Elijah, he's out. He's just shaking, and he about to go to the hospital. We about to follow the ambulance." I told him where we was going, and then I called the bishop. I told him Elijah, and told him where he was going. He said, "Okay, I'm on my way." I called my parents. I told them where we were going. They said, "We on our way." We got to the hospital. I was able to drive to the hospital, which was like maybe 5-10 minutes, barely, 5 minutes away. We get to the hospital. He's in the back. I'm trying to protect the boys, because I didn't want them to see him all Elijah hooked up with the mask and the needles and the tubes and everything. And the doctor came to me and was like, I couldn't comprehend really what he was saying, but all I knew was he was saying was, "We're gonna have to knock him out." So I said, "You're gonna knock my baby out?" So he looked at me like, I said, because I couldn't, my thoughts were just all off, like I couldn't really hear, but I heard. But long story short, they had to put him on the ventilator, because if they didn't put him on the ventilator, because of his heart rate, by the time his heart rate caught up with his breathing and everything, he would have crashed. So I'm like, okay, whatever you got to do. So I'm in the back, and waiting to see what was going to happen, and everything was going on, just waiting around. Then the family, then Tony came, and the bishop came, and my parents came, and my sister came. They all came out. We prayed, and I just knew that he was in God's hand, and everything was going to be okay. So I'm going back to the room where he was at. And the doctors tell me we're going to have to fly him. He's going to have to be airlifted to Comer's Hospital. So I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to figure out if I can go or what have you. Then there was a lot of miscommunication. I couldn't go. So we were able to, Tony, we did what we needed to do. So we were able to go to Comer's Hospital, when we got to the hospital, the air paramedics were leaving. I was like, oh, he's doing so good. He's resting. They got him hooked up. He's okay. You all should be able to go up after you check in. So we checked in. I get up. He's still on the ventilator. He's out of it. Like, he was doing good, breathing on his own, but they still want him to be on the ventilator so that his heart rate can continue to calm down and everything will be okay. So when we got in the room, the neurologist team was coming out to hook his brain up, hook up the EEG machine to his head to monitor his brain waves, because at the hospital he had another seizure. So he had a seizure while I was driving, and he had another seizure when he got to the hospital after they gave him the seizure medicine. So they're trying to figure out why is he having these seizures. No history of seizures in the family, nothing. So he had to do the EEG. I said, okay, how long will that take? They said we were from 7 hours to 24 hours. I said, that's too long. So the neurologist tech was hooking the EEG machine up, and while she was putting the wires on his head, he began to wake up. And I just got excited, like, oh, look, he's waking up. And they was like, well, okay, we still wanted to keep him on the ventilator, so you just got to be careful. You don't want to excite him too much. And just throughout the night, they kept having to pretty much bump the machine up, because he just kept waking up. Like he just kept waking up, and they wanted to make sure he was fine. So we did the EEG. By the morning time they came in, the neurologist team came in and said, you take it off, everything seems to be okay. So it was a quick test, but they still want to keep him on the ventilator because he needs a MRI. And so I'm like, okay, but he's hearing our voices, and he's just waking up. He's just coming out. Said he's ready to come out of it. So in the meantime, he's on the ventilator. We're resting. We're trying to keep quiet. And the nurse comes in and saying, I'm asking, like, how long we're going to be in here? What's next? They said, well, after the MRI, then you have to go to recovery. I said, recovery room? I said, he can recover right here. And the nurse was like, oh, no, you got to. Then I just said, okay, no, just wait. I believe God. I'm just wait and see. And we go from there. So they called the morning time came, and they said, the MRI, he can come down now to take the MRI to see if there's any other damage if it's any damage period during this time that had happened, and see how his brain and how's everything going. So I'm like, okay. So he was able to get in right away, go down. I couldn't go down, but they was able to go to the room and get the test done, and it was quick test. It came back up, and they were waiting for the test results. The neurologist team, now the doctor and everyone, came in and was like, okay, well, all the brain waves, it looks good. No damage was done, and everything looks normal. So I was like, okay, so when can we go home? I said, oh, wait, we gotta wait a little minute. We gotta wake him up. I gotta take him off the ventilator and see how he does and how he's breathing. I'm like, okay. So we waited, and it was time to take him off the ventilator. And the doctor said, I want the family to stand by and talk to him so he can wake up, because it can go the other way. So my parents was there, me and Tony, we was just talking to him like, come on, Elijah, come on, wake up, come on. And it was time to take it out. It could be a scary moment. So they would begin to take it out, and trying to, hey Elijah, come on, wake up, come on, come on. And then he woke up, and he recognized us. He was like wanting us to hold him. I was finally able to hold him. He still had like the IV and everything, but he was able to wake up with no issues. Everything was fine. And then as time was going, they was like, well, we don't want to feed him right now. He just had all these tubes and stuff. So I'm like, he gotta eat. So he's gonna wait it around the nurse. They were really good working with us, talking back and forth to the doctor, like he's hungry, he's crying, he's ready to eat, he's ready to take these tubes off. So I'm like, okay. So we waited, and then they was like, okay, now you can finally start taking, he can eat, and we can remove some of these cords and stuff off of him. So it was another victory. So he's removing the cords, and he's standing up in the bed. I'm like, wait, we need to put the rails up. Like, wait, hold on. Like, I don't want him to fall. He's trying to take the stuff off and stand up and walk, and he's trying to, get out of there. So, he was able to get out of there. He was able to take the cords and stuff off. And after that, they was like, okay, well, you all can, we're gonna wait around. The neurologist gonna come in the morning, and we're gonna let you know when you all will be able to go home. So, the next morning they came in, the team came in, was like, everything is good. All the tests came back normal. He's doing good. He was able to sleep through the night. No issues, no activity, anything. So you all can go home. So that Sabbath morning, everything happened Thursday night. Everything happened Thursday afternoon, then going into Friday, and then the Sabbath morning, that they say we can go home. So Tony had left because of the storm and everything that happened that Friday. So he went home to check everything out and get whatever we need, and he did not have to come back up. Our car said, when you come back, you just wait downstairs for us, and we'll come down. So he was like, okay, and he called us and told us that he was almost there, so we was able to go home with no anything, just the seizure medicine, and everything has been fine. Even up until now, he had the follow-up appointment to do another EEG to see how everything's been going on, and flu season, and then RSV, all this stuff, other stuff was coming up, in the land, and God was able to keep Elijah, like, no high fevers, no seizures. He even had a double ear infection, still no seizures. And then the EEG in November, everything came back normal. No seizures, no activity, no anything. They did the light test, and he responded well. Everything was normal. Then come this January 11th, we went back to see the neurologist. She said he's looking good. He's getting bigger. She had even checked the dosage to make sure he's getting the right dosage, because he's getting bigger. And she said come this May, she will, when we go back to the doctor office, if as long as he has no more seizures, and he will not have any more seizures, we will begin the process of taking him off the seizure medication. And those of you that know seizures, you have to be on the medication for a year before you are able to come off. But because he has been doing good, because he is covered, he is a Sabbath keeper and commandment keeper, a Nazarene, come May, we will begin the process of him taking him off this medication, and he will not have any more seizures anymore. Amen.